Hi everybody, I'm Tim Faith with American Street Edge. Well, those of you who've been watching the videos for a while from my school here in St. Clair already noticed that something's very different. That normally I'm standing and talking about the That Stupid series or talking with different parents, but this is an incredibly important video, and I know there's a lot of content, I know there's a lot of competition for your time and attention, but if you truly want to learn about the absolute sheer horror of the evil of an online platform called Roblox, the chances are your kid is involved in some way. Give us a little bit of time. I have an incredibly brave guest here with me here. I'm just going to call her Street Edge Mom, and she has a son that is here, and off of a casual conversation I found out about her background, but some things I've deliberately waited a little bit to find out about. But I already knew that Roblox is evil, and I don't use that word lightly whatsoever. But that is an absolutely true thing. And so we are here to kind of talk to you a little bit about it and give some actionable goals to help keep people safe. So thank you so much for doing this. I know this was an emotional burden to do this, and it's very brave of you, and it's very street edge of you, and I appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, to get us started, for someone, when we had a discussion, it was because the day before I found out about a brand new student whose great grandma knew nothing about Roblox, and I flipped out whenever he casually mentioned it. I was saying he needs to get off that tonight. And I don't normally talk to a brand new student and great grandma like that, but it caused a very visceral reaction from me. And what I know is very little compared to you, but the great grandma had no idea. So
yeah,
for someone who just doesn't even know what are these two talking about, what is Roblox and what should they know? Why is it evil? Just fill them in.
So Roblox specifically is not a platform that I've ever allowed in my household. So I don't have like hands-on experience with the platform. What I do know is that it's a online game that's very popular with kids. It was created by David Baszucki and Eric Cassell in 2004. So it's old. It's been out there for a long time, which means that it's had a very long time to develop the technology. But what's coming out today is that it's a platform for predators.
Absolutely. I've seen it referred to as the favorite playground of predators. In fact, I think that was the image I posted yesterday from that. And I know there have been some very high-level warnings from up to including the FBI telling people to get off that. I know there was a very emotional episode on the Sean Ryan show recently of a survivor of it. So there's a tremendous amount that's out there. And what struck me is they seem very sophisticated, they seem very organized, and they seem like they are definitely care much more about keeping that money flowing in and keeping kids addicted to this game than dealing with these kids. So how are children being harmed by an online game? Because someone who doesn't know anything about this, that may not even make sense to them.
Well, and this happens with more than just Roblox, but Roblox is coming to light because it is so popular. I'm talking to tech guy back here. Do you have any idea how many users are on Roblox?
I believe when we last looked at it, the number was something along the lines of 5 million users active at any given time.
Over half of American children play Roblox.
That's horrifying.
That is a huge number of kids. So Roblox is like on the spotlight right now, but what I really want parents to understand is that it's not the only platform that is popular with predators. It's just the sheer amount of users and predators on it that is, people are starting to realize, oh my God, we can't have this in our family. Just to give you like one hint, there is a group that was found by the CIA called the 764 group, and it's a satanic group, and the things that they're getting kids to do on camera is just horrific. It's more than I can talk about on a family-friendly podcast.
Right. Yeah, you just caused my heart rate to go up a little bit, and that's no, it's good. And that's the thing, when I talked about being very authentic and transparent, because that is the heart of American Street Edge and my philosophy, my style, that I deliberately didn't go over too much what we were going to do, because I wanted to be a fresh authentic conversation. What I know about that group is absolutely, I mean, I would just encourage people, what's the name of it again for them?
It's called the 764 group.
That the 764 group, look into that, and I posted, and we haven't even scratched the surface of this yet, that we're both taking real risks with doing this. You know, the idea that if nothing else, the page, the American Street Edge page could be suppressed all the way to being targeted and so forth, and I was fine with that. We both made that conscious decision. She's going to talk about what she's been through, but this particular organization, I mean, we're talking about some real evil here. For anybody that is watching this, and understand that they don't see your kids as kids at all. They see them as a resource to whatever their ultimate disgusting, sick, and evil goals are. And the fact that 764 is also tied into that makes that much more horrifying. And it's even more important for how seriously the people need to take this.
Another thing about Roblox is that, I mean, yes, it's a gaming platform, and from what I understand, kids go on there and they create their own games, and you can, you know, have buddies join in or whatever. But it can be used for virtual concerts, events. So I have no idea what the connotations are with that, but the things that you can do with this tech, it goes beyond just simple gaming. Mm-hmm. So when your kid goes on there and you think, oh, you know, this is just a kid's game where they'll maybe it'll even be educational. It's educational, all right, but not in a good way. And they have tech now where I think it's called ad game, where people can go and pay for a campaign, and they will build the campaign into the actual game that kids are playing. So when this game is created, there's subliminal messaging going on, and kids are picking up on this without even realizing it.
Yeah, and so that is one of a couple of things that I knew about before I met you, was one, to how sophisticated grooming has become. And I'd like to talk about that, what grooming is for people who may not know. And the other is that it's my understanding that it's very easy for the predator to set up an avatar to make it very easy for them to look like a child within the game, and then to invite that kid into basically a room that has a physical sensation to it, and that it is very friendly towards them being hyper-sexualized within that room. That there's really no safeguards from that, and that's one of the main things that I think, if nothing else, people take away from this, that to understand that this game it's very easy for people to imitate being a child, and then there's basically nothing in place to keep them from being very sexual in there, and that there are actual systems in place to help them to understand how to introduce that child to the idea of these sexual things, all the way up to these satanic tasks from that organization. That all of that is happening within this game.
Absolutely, yeah, and they try to say that they have things in place that will protect kids, like, oh, we have artificial intelligence that will pick up data, that will ensure that, you know, the age is correct, that, you know, it's not going to be an older person engaging with a younger person. It is as easy as one kid drew a face on his thumb and held it up for the selfie AI.
Just the facial recognition.
Right, yeah, exactly, and he was able to get a 21 plus account.
So a kid's drawing on a thumb,
yeah.
And this AI that's supposed to be protecting the children said, okay, that's an adult, this is legit.
Sure, and it can be
there is zero chance that was an accident. This is just my opinion. But if they're smart enough to build out this program, and we've got a tech guy back here nodding his head, that there is zero chance that they are unaware that it is that easy to beat that. And that is one of my issues, and what I've read about is that it's not just a permitted sense of evil and a permitted sense of accommodation, but that it's an encouraged, and that there's systems in place to help these absolute disgusting deviants to be able to go in there and go after our kids.
It's very sophisticated. It's very sophisticated because there's just so much money in it. I mean, people get bored easily, and when you've had all of the thrills in life, and you get to that point where things are getting a little boring. Well, then you start going after new things, and depending on the people you hang around and depending on the size of your bank account, those thrills can get real ugly real quick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the science behind this, the dopamine, the adrenaline, cortisol, I mean, that's
Yes.
way before internet days. They just learned how to sexualize and monetize it to be able to go after our kids.
Yes.
Is really what this comes down to. And I think that anyone, we talked a little before camera about kind of the nature of people and kind of the nastiness of trolls and people who get on there. But there are people that have a contrarian point of view. There are people that I could say, I'm wearing a black shirt because I enjoy it. A purely subjective statement, and they would argue with me because that's their nature. I think those same people get online and they will argue for the sake of arguing.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who argues about this and says it's just a kid's game and you're just getting your feathers ruffled because you're old, to a 15-year-old, and they're like, you're old, you don't understand this stuff. And then whenever they're trying to make the point to their parents that these are just old people that don't understand things, and then all the way to the middle-aged person that's arguing that let kids have fun, how do you address that?
So depending on the maturity level of the person arguing with me, if they're of a fairly mature mindset, I would tell them to hit the books, go look up the facts, go research this stuff yourself. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Mr. Fancher. Go and actually do the research yourself. If it's a little kid arguing with me because they just want to play a game and they want to be popular like their friends are popular, scary stories. I will absolutely tell my kid a scary story that's truthful, that is based in truth, so that he understands the real risks involved. These kids shouldn't be protected from the truth. They need to be protected from the evil. So if my kid comes up to me, hey, I want to play Roblox, well, let's look at what Roblox really is.
Yeah, so I think that is probably going to be, even though you're probably going to give a lot more amazing statements, that's probably going to be the most important thing out of this entire episode, because I think more and more parents should do that. I've talked about this before, and it's you two have seen it firsthand of my approach with teaching the kids, and that idea of that mentorship, that sometimes you just tell someone, you tell a kid, you're gonna do this because I told you, period. And I don't need to explain further than that. And I think that, this wishy-washy thing of I've talked about, and I don't think it's going off topic because I've talked about, it drives me crazy. I'm in a store, for example, and I see a kid throw a bag of candy in the grocery cart they clearly get permission for, and the parent is practically begging him to put it back while giving reasons why to give it back, and then saying thank you for giving it back. And I was like, had I done that to my mom whenever I was a kid, holy cow. And I think that that's caused a lot of issues in society. And so I think that parents need to think about that. I think about like whenever you're told as a kid not to touch the oven, and if the kid argues why, they'll be like, because it will burn and you're going to have a horrible scar the rest of your life. And that was scary, and it worked. Most people don't have horrible scars from grabbing ovens as a kid because a parent told them that.
Right.
The idea of getting away from that, I think, is extremely dangerous. So I think it's important for parents to really internalize what you just said. Flat say no, and then instead of begging them or giving them excuses, tell them a horror story after that if you need to. Just like what's going to happen if you grab that hot stove.
Yeah, hold on to your authority for sure.
Yeah. What would be an example of say you've got a 10-year-old who starts throwing a temper tantrum because you said you're not only not playing it, but we're deleting it, and then you start to put some other measures in place once you found out that he's been down that path. What would be an example of a scary story you would say to a 10-year-old to help the parents out here if they have a kid that starts throwing a fit?
Well, my father raised me on the classic Grimm stories. So
Okay.
If it's not directly connected to an incident, to teach your kid through storytelling that there are true evils out there, it's tried and true. It's a tried and true method. But if you're dealing with an incident, and I'm not a trained professional, this is all just from being a parent and from learning from.
Yeah, this is educational purposes only.
Yes. But if you're dealing with an incident, communication with your child is essential, and to tell a story just on a whim especially a mother's heart is going to know what to say.
Sure.
So trust your instincts, trust your intuition when you're talking to your kid. If you're not up for the task of creating a story, then tell them a real one. Tell them, like, look up a story of something that happened to a real kid and how this kid's life started to fall apart because they played Roblox or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that to kind of go down the path of the appeal to authority works with kids too, because like I said, FBI put out a very scary statement, so that's something that parents could do. Look up that FBI warning, look at the big scary FBI logo and what's underneath that, and then read that to the kids. So I think that's kind of what I was getting at, was that I think that besides just saying no, I think it's important that you're not giving an excuse for why I'm saying no. I'm giving a reason. There's a big difference. I tell my students that I don't want to hear an excuse for why you did wrong, but if you want to tell me the reason so we can work through it, let's do that. So I think that that's important too. I think that when you're taking away a game that a kid loves and they're starting to throw a fit, then I think that don't think of it as I'm giving them excuses why I'm saying no. Here's the reason why. And I think that if there's ever been a time to be unfiltered and just make it where, yeah, they're going to be scared to get on there, because I talk about all the time, the classic book, The Gift of Fear. The fear can be a gift. And when you know how to use it, you can actually learn how to use it as a weapon. And, and that's kind of what you're doing, is you're weaponizing that fear in order to keep someone safe. And I think that's incredibly important. So to give people, and what we're looking at doing is having other episodes, and another one where we get a little bit into what I like to call into the weeds, where we're going to talk about some of the technical specifics, and maybe even a little bit more specific on some of the different stories behind that. But one thing that I think, just to let people know the severity of this, is I don't know much about it, but you paid a price for fighting this. And whether it was Roblox, trafficking, what have you, but you told me that, with your permission to say this again, that AI knows your face, and you warned me about that before we do this video, that I was taking a risk with the school, and with our website, with our Facebook page and YouTube and so forth. You also said that you were stalked, you were harassed, you were sabotaged. As much as you're comfortable, tell us that story.
Well, I mean, I've been fighting human trafficking for the better part of 10 years now, and so there's many stories, many things that have happened to me over the years. One in particular, I had a blog website that I had built myself, and that was one of the ways that I was trying to get information out there, that I had to shut down because they totally cut traffic. I lost all traffic to my website. But one of the times I had posted an article on my website, and within 10 minutes, my computer started blowing up with very, very foul pop-ups calling me every name in the book. So cyber attacks are very real.
Yes. And
now they're not even just human-based, they're AI-based. So that's another thing for parents to keep in mind when their kids are playing these really high-tech games. Now you're not just contending with humans, you are contending with a totally new entity that nobody really understands.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. And the AI has become such a hot button, and especially with data centers and things of that nature. But you cannot turn a blind eye and just it's not going away. It can't go away. That's what's scary about it, is there's no way to turn it off. And I think we're past controlling it, but that's a whole different thing. But I think that to keep it on the topic of this isn't like when I grew up, of you blow on the cartridge, you get the dust out, and then you put in there and you play your video game, and it's contained within this.
Right.
That people who maybe aren't as up to date on technology, I think that for them, I think to actually think of it as this is a conscious actor in my family and my kid's life. That to think of it as this is basically a conscious being that has a type of intelligence I don't understand, that could very easily manipulate my child. And I think that if someone accepts that, looks at it like that, they need to ask themselves the very easy question: do I want that thing to have total control and access to my kid? And if the answer is no, then as it should be, then that's when you start taking a hard look at things like Roblox and others, because the people who are trying to say, who get all upset because someone uses AI to make a flyer or something, they're on a platform that uses AI while barking at somebody for using AI. It's everywhere now. I am speaking as beyond a layman. I mean, but it just takes a few minutes of reading to, even when I'm searching about it, it's AI that in some way is helping me to search about it. We can't get away from it. So I think that what parents need to do at this point is, like all unknown threats, educate yourself the best you can, and then learn to protect your backyard. You can't protect the entire town as soon as you learn about something, but you can protect your backyard. And I think, that's very consistent with the American street edge mindset too. And that's what I'm hoping that parents will take away from this, is we deliberately, and we'll get into this, she has a massive amount of resources, but I know that just too much at once isn't going to do anything. My hope is just for people to realize you simply were trying to help people and you got cyber attacked, and you had some other things happen apparently, and there was a great level of concern about just using my several-year-old phone and a tripod I got from the thrift store and putting this video out there. This is not a high-tech operation, and we both had to pause and think, is the risk worth it? That should tell people right there, do you want your kids interacting with entities like that? So I think that for now, what would be your suggestion to parents on Roblox, on social media in general, and then also what about schools that are requiring kids to be able to do some things online at home? As a mom, as a survivor of this harassment, of someone who's studied this, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I would like parents to be aware that databasing is a very real thing. And if you don't know what databasing is, it's basically building data on a specific person. That's been going on since the 80s.
Yeah.
So now you don't just have databasing. Now you have a camera on your kid, and you have technology that is able to analyze their behavior, predict their behavior, and control their behavior. So I would say you have to make your own call. You have to make your own judgments. Being a parent isn't easy. You can't protect your kid from everything. They have to have some exposure,
Yes.
so that they learn. This is all new, very new territory for parents, very scary stuff. So for my own personal family, we turned the clock back. We pulled out those dusty cartridges. We pulled out the old gaming systems, and we told our kid it's retro, and so we tried to dress it up and make it a little more cool. We stay away from the high-tech stuff for our kids' safety, because as of right now, we don't know what's going to happen. So I would probably say that if at all possible, keep your kid away from it, because it's just dangerous.
Yeah, and I think, the subject line, I changed this to Roblox is evil, and it was in part because my original thing where I said that we're going to be posting this, I had a parent, so someone who's kind of got to know me, that was just scrolling quickly, and she said all she saw was Roblox, and she had a moment of panic, thinking that I was saying something about it. But what was interesting about that was A, it shows how quickly people scroll, but B, that she had such a visceral reaction and she knew very little about it. So I think on some level that people have kind of heard about this, but that's why I changed the top line there. But to be consistent with this, I mean, we've talked about how sophisticated it is. I think that thumb story is incredibly important. But if you just had like the old elevator pitch, that 30-second thing, because there are other platforms, but we chose to talk a little bit more about this one. What would you say to someone in just 30 seconds or less? Why, and I'm really putting you on the spot here, but why Roblox? Why would you be okay with my calling it evil and be willing to give up your time and come in here and talk about this? Why are we saying this to them? because there are a lot of platforms out there, but Roblox seems to be kind of leading the charge on causing that reaction, and that mom and myself and you. So what would you say to someone about that?
There is a satanic group on Roblox that is 10,000 members strong, and that is just one group, and they are teaching kids to cut numbers into their skin and perform satanic rituals.
There you go. And this is real. This is very easy to find. And yeah, and deepfakes and all that, there's stuff out there, but it's very easy to realize that this is real. It's absolutely real. And that I just see Roblox as, I just imagine this giant entity that is just evil with all these different arms, and their entire focus is harming the kids. And you know, I think that any level, any entity of evil, of harm, of so forth, I think human nature is, we want to put a face to it, we want to put a name to it. I think that's what we're doing, and I think that that's appropriate. And so, you know, and my point of view is that I think that, and just to, in closing, to see what you think of this, I basically, I don't think kids under the age of 14 should be on social media at all. No. Because, you know, yeah, they may not be as cool in their school groups right now, but 10 years from now, A, it won't matter, and B, they're going to be so much better adjusted than the kids that are going up against that, because everybody fights. I don't care if you're a 60-year-old retiree, you fight when you get online with comparing your life to someone else's, and it does incredible harm to someone who's late middle aged, let alone at that age when the brains are developing so quickly. So that is my opinion. And then I think that if school does require schoolwork at home, I think that a family computer in the living room that is only on when one other adult is in the room there, and then that part of the end of the night routine when you're locking up and checking your locks and you're turning off your lights, you check the history on that computer. You add those 10 seconds to that shutdown procedure as the family goes to bed. In my opinion, that's going to be a safer family, even if it's got a bit of a grumpy kid, because in 10 years from now, that's going to be a well-adjusted kid. And that's going to negate this, the horrors of platforms like Roblox.
Absolutely. Yeah, always be vigilant, and we don't ever let our kid do internet searches. We don't let him, he's not allowed on social media. I believe it was the Netherlands that just recently banned social media for kids under the age of 16.
Well, how many of the founders of these programs are not allowing their kids on this stuff? I mean, all that is things that is very heavily documented as well, which I think should really tell people something. A lot of the tech giants have publicly stated, my kids are not allowed on that stuff. So I understand that so my point of view is they need to learn this stuff in order to prepare yourself, yes, but it needs to be monitored is the biggest thing. I think that way you can address that tension of we can't pretend this stuff doesn't exist, but definitely a high level of involvement, and I would say even involvement with yourself. I think even teenagers and adults needs to have some kind of accountability, whether it's like the screen timers on your phone or talking about it with someone else, just to make sure, because I fall into that scrolling hypnosis myself of just going through shorts on YouTube, and next thing I knew 40 minutes went by and I was like, that's 40 minutes I'll never get back, and I don't really know what I just watched. It's kind of frightening. And so I think that a very high level of conscious vigilance is going to be the key. Absolutely. And I think that, you know, we gave more than enough information here on Roblox, and I'd just like to go back to anyone to spend some time looking at what I meant by how easily it is for them to sexualize the character they're playing and the different grooming methodologies. That you've got a legitimate satanic group doing these things that have documented cases of self-harm from kids, and then you've got a culture that is encouraging this sort of thing. This is the evil we're talking about, and this is someone who has had some pretty lousy things happen to her, to put it mildly. It can't be overstated. None of this is a overreaction dramatic video. It has to happen to keep our kids safe. So do you have any closing words for parents? And like I said, I would love to do this again and get a little more technical on the next one, but I think it was important to kind of give an intro overview for today.
I'd probably say that hope is a great asset, and if something did happen to your kid, if you're one of those parents where your kid was harmed by social media or Roblox or any of these other online platforms, you can help it, you can ease it, you can soothe it. Just like you can tell scary stories to keep a kid away from something, you can tell them good things to help heal them. Soothing music, especially instrumental music, is really good for the psyche.
Yeah, and I think that's important too. And I think that just on my end, I'll end it with I don't want people to take an ostrich approach to this. And I do think it's important to look at AI has already done some great things, and some of the things we're talking about in the medical industry in particular, I think is very exciting. I just think that parents need to really to just be on guard and don't trust it, and be involved with your kids is my point of view on this. So, well, I appreciate it. Like I said, I know this was a lot for you to do this, and you know, I think that a lot of kids are going to be safer. So I just want to thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to everybody, and just keep watching, and please share this.